Greetings gamers, today we're going to be looking at a dungeon map making tool called Dungeon Fog. Dungeon Fog is an online based map making tool for making encounter and battle maps for your games of D&D or other tabletop RPGs. Because it's online, it means that there's no downloads and you can use it from anywhere that you've got an internet connection. I love making battle maps and I recently came across Dungeon Fog, got in touch with Till from Dungeon Fog, and they hooked me up with a 1 month pass for their premium service so I could test it all out and put together a review for you folks. They're not paying for this review, they did give me the 1 month of premium access, but that is it. Like I said, I do love a good battle map. Theatre of the Mind is awesome, and there are some things that a battle map could never be used for, but wherever I can, I like to give my players some visual representation of the space they're in, just so they can coordinate their movement and be a little more tactical. And if I can do that with a really nice battle map, then that's even better. So let's dive in and get started. Now, Dungeon Fog has got two different options. There's a free option and a premium option. Now, I've made a new account here that is just the free version to start off with, so that you can see what you get if you just go in for the free version and have none of the bells and whistles. We'll see what we can make with that, and then I'll log into my premium account and we'll see what the difference is. So once you've logged in, this is going to be your homepage, your dashboard, and you just click create new map and it will give you some options to fill in some details. So we'll just call this map test and we'll have a look through the settings. We'll keep it for a dotted rectangle. We'll have a look at what presets we've got. You can choose different print options if you want to print your maps. I play mostly online, so we're going to go for virtual tabletop, and then we're going to set our grid size in pixels to whatever virtual tabletop you use. If you use Roll20, I think it's 70 pixels. I use Fantasy Grounds, so it needs to either be 100 or 50 pixels. So we'll go with 100 pixels, and then you can choose your starting size. So we'll leave it at 25 by 25, and we'll leave the distance at 5 foot. So we click Open Air Data, and it will generate that. When you've got a free account, one of the things that happens is you get this splash page with the ads, but it only lasts for a few seconds, and then you just click to continue off with it, and you're left with your map. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to resize the map so I can show it all. One of the things that I have found quite frustrating is that there's no control zoom, there's no mouse wheel zoom that I can see. It's all based on this tool here. Now you can access these tools with the number keys, so you can zoom in relatively easy. Zooming out is a real pain though. There's no one quick solution for zooming out. You just have to click up here on show all. So you can see when you first load up your map, it gives you a generic grass texture, and that is totally fine. What I want to do first is make a really basic tavern, the sort of place that a level 1 party might start out in, where you might meet and maybe have a simple bar fight encounter. So we're going to go down here to the draw room option, and you can see that we can select a few different options for our wall type. We can have them be below the ground, be normal, cave, walls. We'll keep it to normal at the moment, and then we can choose different textures for our floor and our wall as we draw our rooms. So let's have a look here. I think we'll leave it on square wooden tiling, which is the default. And for the wall, I think we'll probably leave that on solid dark stone for this example. But you can see that you can choose different options. And one of the benefits of being a premium subscriber, as you'll see later, is you get a lot more options. But the free offering does give you quite a lot of flexibility. It gives you simple parchments, it gives you clays, it gives you snows, it gives you grass, and it gives you a variety of internal floors as well. So with our settings chosen, we'll go in and we'll just start by creating our room. Now the way this works is you draw individual lines, and once they're connected up, it will create a room in the shape that you've drawn out. So we'll start off by drawing ourselves a nice tavern like so, and you can see once I connect it up, it gives me the finished shape of the building. You can see I selected my walls to be normal and above ground, so it gives me a little bit of a shadow around, which is quite nice. So what I'll do is I will drop the opacity of the grid just so you can see what's going on a little better. So to do that, we go into the select tool and down to grid color, and we can just change the opacity. So just leave it there a little bit just so we can see to snap to it, but so that it doesn't get in our way. So there's our basic floor. From here, you want to go through and add in doors, windows, all the different tables, chairs that you might find in a small tavern like this. I usually start by adding doors and windows before anything else because they inform where I'll place other elements. So we'll start by clicking on the door option here, and we've got several choices within there. We've got single doors, we've got double doors, we've got options for them to be closed or open, options to just put a passage through the wall so that there's no wall there, and then where you can see these little icons with the crown on them, those are premium assets. And one of the cool things about Dungeon Fog is that it will let you place premium assets to try them out. It just does so with a watermark over it. So if you wanted to add a big passage, it will add one. It'll just add this little watermark. That means that if you were to print it, it wouldn't look very good. And if you had a lot of premium assets, it wouldn't look very good. But it allows you to try them and see and get a feel for the different premium assets before you decide whether or not you want to pick the premium version up. So you can see that I've added doors and windows to my map. And one thing that I think is really cool to point out here is that it has changed the lighting around the map. You can see all around the building there is a shadow except for where there are windows and doors, because that lets the light pass through them. And Dungeon Fog as a whole has some really cool lighting options that we'll get into later. But with the windows added, we'll go in and we'll start adding our set dressing. Now you can see when I click here on the place prop tool, I've got loads of different options here for different things like armor racks or boxes and containers, or puddles of blood, things that you might find in a dungeon, different furniture types, different things that you might find outdoor like a well or a pile of rocks, stair options, tables, trees. There's quite a lot of basic stuff there in the free version, enough that for most simple buildings you'd be able to make a pretty decent and passable map with just the free props. But when you go into the premium version, which we'll be doing later in the video, you'll see that there is a huge library of different props, and that's really what sets the two versions apart. So after maybe 5 or 10 minutes, we've got a really simple tavern map that we made with the free version of Dungeon Fog. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my premium version, and we're going to make the exact same layout map using all of the premium assets so you can see the sort of difference you get between the two tiers. So as you can see, the premium version of Dungeon Fog has a lot more asset options, not just in terms of categories, but also in terms of the assets within those categories. So if I just open up tables here, before we only had a few options, now we have a huge number of options to choose from. So whereas before I only have the one tavern table to work from and a bar table, this time we can use a bar table. We can scale it up a little bit so that we've got a nice chunky bar table there, and we can place the same there, and you can see that already that looks much better than what we had before. And we can go in and we can start adding blank tables that we can add our own decoration to, and there's also a huge number of other little set dressing options. So I'm going to remake that tavern map using the premium version, and then we can compare the two of them. And here we have a simple tavern map made using the premium assets in Dungeon Fog. As you can see, it's a lot more visually interesting. There's a lot greater variety of things you can put on tables. You can use different props and textures, but one of the most fun things that I find for Dungeon Fog is using lighting effects. A lot of the premium assets are things like torches and candles and light sources, and in the lighting section of Dungeon Fog you can control the ambient light, you can change the outside to be more of a nighttime scene where everything's a little bit darker, or you can just switch it off completely, which means you can get two versions of the same map really easily. You can get a daytime version where everything's nice and bright, none of the lights are on. Then with a click of a button, you've got a nighttime version of that map. So if it's a location that your players might go frequently and they might have a reason to have a map for the night or the day, it's really easy to do that in Dungeon Fog. And I really like how the light spills onto other assets. So for example, if I click on this lamp here, if I turn it off, you can see that the barrels next to it get a little bit dimmer. Whereas if I turn it on, the light is cast onto those props. And that's just a really small but really cool thing that this tool does. Another really cool option in Dungeon Fog is the layers and levels. Now, if I wanted to add a second floor to this map, I could do that really easily by adding a new level to it. And what that will do is it will allow me to see a transparent layer of what I've already done so that I can match the walls and the placement of stairs and things, but allow me to create a new map. And when I go to export it, it will export them as two separate images, which is really nice. One of the coolest things that Dungeon Fog has going for it is its integration for your GM notes. So if I click up here on GM notes, it will take me to a new screen and present me with a variety of options. So you can see here that it will give me the entire map that I just made, exterior and interior, but it will also give me a room by room option. So our tavern was a single room, so that's all it shows here. But if I drag that over onto this blank page here, you can see it puts the room map in and then gives me a summary of the entire room. So it gives me a description of the floor and of the walls. It will let me know what objects are in there, and it will let me know what kind of doors there are. If I've made any objects hidden, which is an option when placing objects, it will let me know in there. It will tell me about traps. If I add any NPCs or monsters via the token option, it will also tell me about that. And then I can go in and I can type and add things in as well. It's a really nice option, especially if you want to play in person and you'd like to have a printout version of your map, but maybe you don't have access to a really large printer. Well, you could print this version off in a small form like an A4 or a US letter. You'd have all your notes, but you'd also have that small version of the map to be able to show the players, to give them a little better idea of the placement of things, and then use just a plain grid for the actual combat. Or you can head to the export option and export the map as a whole. Now, you've got a lot of different options here. When you've got several levels to a single building, you can select which level you want to print, and if you've added in any of the exterior, it will show each level and the exterior, which is really nice. It gives you option to change the sizing of your map as well as add in some tiling, and you can also disable your grid if you want something that doesn't have a grid built in, so that you can import it into something like Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 and add a grid like that. Overall, I really like Dungeon Fog. I like how easy it is to create rooms. I like the library of different props and textures that are available, and I really like the option to add different levels to the same map and use the GM notes. The biggest thing for me that holds it back is the pricing. Dungeon Fog is a subscription based pricing service, so there is a free option which I've shown you, which gives you some of the assets and will allow you to make basic maps. But if you want to make something much more interesting, you're going to need the premium version. And if we head over to the pricing page, you can see that the monthly fee is £4.90. Now, that isn't a huge amount, and obviously depending on your circumstances, how expensive that is to you is going to vary dramatically. I don't think it's too high if you're making a lot of maps. If you're running a campaign where you play every week or a couple times every week and you already use maps every single week, then the price is probably low enough that you'll be able to get hold of the premium subscription and make a whole lot of maps. I wish that it was a one-time fee that you could just download as a program though. That would be my preferred way of enjoying Dungeon Fog. Obviously, if you go for the annual subscription, it's going to cost you less per month overall, but it's a higher upfront cost. So for me, even though I would prefer to spend a one-time payment and get it as a downloadable product, the £4.90 a month is okay if you're going to be making a lot of maps. What I will probably end up doing is I will probably end up periodically signing up for a month here and there, making a lot of maps in that month for several sessions into the future, and maybe some generic ones, you know, taverns, houses, things like that I could use in a variety of sessions, and then cancelling the subscription. I don't think I use the detailed battle maps enough to warrant £4.90 a month, but if you're a dungeon master who does, then it's a reasonably small price to pay for the variety of assets that you get. There we have it, folks. There's your overview / review of Dungeon Fog. I think it's a really neat program. I really have quite enjoyed using it in the month that I've been playing around with it, and I love the variety of assets that are included with it. It's certainly something that I'm going to be using going forward, even if I don't use it every single month. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what you thought of the program, what you thought of the assets, and whether or not it's something that you'd consider picking up. How do you feel about the price? Is it too high, or do you think it's fair for the amount of maps that you would personally get out of it? Let me know down in the comments below, and until next time, happy gaming. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for new content every single Friday. And if you want to keep watching, well, there's another couple videos for you to watch just over there. Happy gaming.